These are problems that have existed in the legal profession for many years. Mental health issues, stress, anxiety, depression, burnout, vicarious or secondary trauma, sometimes known as compassion fatigue. We're noticing a lot of callers who are experiencing grief. And it's not just a response to loss of life. It's also a response to the drastic changes to our daily routines and ways of life that usually brought us feelings of comfort and stability. And that was this world of hyperconnectivity. So what exactly is it? It's defined as the use of multiple systems and devices that may remain constantly connected to social networks and streams of information.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Justia webinar. My name is Nina, and I will be the moderator for today. For now, let me introduce our speaker, Brian S. Quinn. Brian S. Quinn Esquire is a licensed attorney in Pennsylvania who currently serves as the Education and Outreach Coordinator for Lawyers Concerned for Lawyers of Pennsylvania, Incorporated, a lawyer's assistance program established in 1988 for the purpose of helping lawyers, judges, and law students recover from alcoholism, substance misuse, and mental health disorders. Mr. Quinn obtained his undergraduate degree in 1970, his law degree in 1973, and a certificate in drug and alcohol counseling in 2012 from Villanova University. A member of the Pennsylvania and American Bar Associations, he has been a private practitioner for over 45 years, having litigated both civil and criminal matters during his career. The webinar presentation you're about to watch will be approximately 1 hour, and Brian will be taking audience questions after the presentation is complete. If you have any questions that come up during the presentation, please feel free to click that Q&A button at the control panel at the bottom of your screen and submit your questions. Without further ado, here is Brian to discuss virtual isolation. Is hyperconnectivity helping or harming the legal profession?
Thank you, Nina. It's my pleasure to be here today, presenting virtual isolation. Is hyperconnectivity helping or harming the legal profession? Now that you know who I am, I don't need to go through that. Only to say that I have been doing these types of presentations for Lawyers Concerned for Lawyers of Pennsylvania since 2017. And it's probably a good idea to start with talking about lawyers' assistance programs, since I do work for one. And I think that in particular, I will ultimately get to the point where I will share with you the fact that I didn't get this position by accident. I am a product of the system, let's say. I had never heard of a lawyer's assistance program. So now I really can tell you that from my own personal experience and from doing programs like these throughout the United States and reaching many, many, many thousands of lawyers, I'm still finding out that there are attorneys that do not really know much about the lawyer assistance programs that exist. In California, the state bar takes care of this. Their lawyer's assistance program helps attorneys, active, inactive, even those who have been disciplined and may be under suspension or disbarred, applicants for admission to the bar, law students, anyone in the profession, frankly, who's struggling with substance use issues, stress, anxiety, depression, other mental health issues. And I do want to make sure that you understand that probably the number one reason why lawyers do not utilize a lawyer's assistance program, I don't care what state you're in. This is something that the American Bar Association surveys every year. All 50 states have a program of some sort or another, and then we're always asked, why don't the lawyers in your state utilize the lawyer's assistance program? And the number one answer, year in and year out, fear of disclosure, fear that it won't be held confidential. So people are always concerned that what will happen if someone finds out that I called. And I'll probably get to that a little bit later when I talk about some of the barriers that lawyers have to getting a treatment or accepting treatment, I should say. But I think it's really important to know that, for example, in your state, the Business and Professions Code, Section 6234, makes it clear that any information obtained by the Lawyer's Assistance Program is confidential and cannot be disclosed as part of a civil proceeding, a disciplinary action, and many people need to understand that it's really a situation where what you say to someone and what is revealed to someone who's working for a lawyer's assistance program is confidential. And we all know about confidentiality with our clients. It's part of our rules of professional conduct, and I don't care what state you practice in. And if some of you are licensed in more than one state, I always urge people to do two things. One, look up the Lawyer's Assistance Program in your state, and you're going to see a link to the ABA's directory of state Lawyer's Assistance Programs. And two, consult and check the rules of professional conduct in your state, because the rules of professional conduct are not the same in every state. And there are specific references to duties to report misconduct and exceptions to the duties to report. So please familiarize yourself with that, but understand, and this frankly is language that I took right from the Lawyer's Assistance Program website in California. They promise confidentiality, and really without that, no one could really hopefully expect to exist in this particular area of the law, helping other lawyers with these problems. Here's your website information for, this is the directory for the national directory link, the state bar directory link, the telephone numbers for the California Lawyer's Assistance Program. And you can see that not only are there links to that, but I also have the two physical locations, and some other resource links, and I have them repeated again at the end of this presentation in some of the final slides, having to do with the American Bar Association's wellness programs. So please utilize this information. The rest of the program really is interchangeable. This is a constant. These are things that you need to keep readily available, because frankly, it may not necessarily be just for you. Excuse me. You have to think about the fact that not all the calls to a lawyer's assistance program are what we call self-referrals. Many times, and in some states it varies in the percentages. I know here in Pennsylvania, where I am, a third of our calls are requests for intervention, requests that we help someone that the caller is concerned about. And by the way, we often get calls from judges about lawyers that they are concerned about. Why? Because every state has a judicial code. Every state has an ethical mandate among the members of the bench to take appropriate action if they believe that a lawyer may be under some sort of impairment or distress. So you need to be aware of all of this, because sometimes that judge will call us and say, "Look, we're concerned about such and such. We think that maybe they need some sort of assistance," and frankly, the judge has to take some ethical action. Action to fulfill their ethical obligation is really the way I should put it. And sometimes that just means picking up the phone and calling the Lawyer's Assistance Program. Just familiarize yourself with all of these rules. Check with the websites and the links that I've given you, because it's really invaluable information for yourself and for other members of our profession. Hopefully, if you know someone who's struggling, you can reach out and help them, because there is no question that the problems in our profession, frankly, are significant. We lawyers have been at risk to develop problems for many years now. The types of problems that I have on the screen right now, certainly long before the impact of COVID-19 was felt. These are not things that are just a couple of years old. I would say the presenting issues have changed a little bit, and that's what this program is really all about, is virtual isolation and hyperconnectivity. And there's certainly been a big impact on that with respect to the imposed isolation and the quarantine of the COVID-19 pandemic. But these are problems that have existed in the legal profession for many years. Mental health issues, stress, anxiety, depression, burnout, vicarious or secondary trauma, sometimes known as compassion fatigue. Aside from the, let's say, traditional, and I only say that because many people feel that lawyers' assistance programs only help someone with an alcohol or substance use problem. That is not correct. I can tell you that many states have reported that their presenting issues have changed dramatically in the last few years. Lawyers felt much more comfortable talking about drinking. Alcohol is legal. It's socially acceptable, very socially acceptable in our profession. And lawyers would often call, and still do, saying, well, I think maybe I have a drinking problem, or some people think that I need to get a little help, or maybe I need to cut back a little bit. I don't know. But you know what they didn't want to talk about? Why they were drinking. What was it that they were using alcohol for? Was there something else going on? And lawyers don't like to talk about those other things because that may mean discussing mental health. Shh, we can't talk about that. What do people say? It's one thing to have someone know that maybe I have a couple of drinks too many, a couple of times too often, but I'm not going to talk about my mental health. Then what will they think about me? And that's been a problem for a long time. And I'm happy to tell you that it's changing. The percentage of lawyers that are calling with a primary presenting issue that deals with mental health is on the rise. Now, that doesn't mean that necessarily the prevalence rates have dramatically increased to that extent. It means that people are willing to talk about. So let's talk about some of these problems. This is one of the things that I need to begin with, because no matter whether we talk about mental health or substance use disorders, lawyers and non-lawyers are not on equal footing. We don't all start off at ground zero together. Unfortunately, lawyers already, and have for many years, had higher prevalence rates of issues dealing with their mental health and substance use. This is a slide that gives us the findings of Patrick Krill, a lawyer and a certified drug and alcohol counselor who back in 2015 was asked by the American Bar Association to perform really what was the first scientific study of its type that dealt with alcohol use and substance use and mental health issues in the legal profession. Mr. Krill was associated with the Hazelden Betty Ford Foundation at the time of this study. As I said, he's a lawyer and a certified drug and alcohol counselor. So he utilized those skills to formulate a series of questions that he posed to approximately 13,000 lawyers. 19 different states were covered by this survey. He got the results back. He didn't just take them at face value and accept them as self-reporting this problem or that problem and kind of checking off the box. Okay, one for anxiety, one for stress. No, he took them. First of all, he formulated them in a way that was similar to the types of questions one would ask in a clinical setting. Then he analyzed them in the same way. He used the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual, the DSM, that it's used by medical professionals to diagnose and treat people with disorders of this type. And when he did that, he saw his results and he declared them to be incompatible with a sustainable professional culture. And one of the reasons he said that is on the screen right now. He found that 28%, by the way, remember, 2015, the study, 28% of all lawyers suffer from depression, not the ups and downs of everyday life, the mood swings that we all have. Okay. This was 28% of the lawyers would qualify for a clinical depression diagnosis. 23% stress disorder, anxiety disorder, 19%. Higher rates than those among younger lawyers, 30 years of age and younger, or those in their first 5 years of practice. He did a similar study on alcohol use and found that 21% of all lawyers are problem drinkers. That means they drink to the point of it being hazardous or even alcohol dependent. Alcohol dependency, 21%. I know, yeah, those young lawyers in that category of alcohol use, a third of the lawyers 30 years of age and younger were problem drinkers. 1/3. It's a lot of lawyers. So, what's that? How's that compared to non-lawyers? Depression. 7% of our population suffers from clinical depression. 1/4 the percentage of lawyers. 7%, 28%. Alcohol, problem drinking, 6.4%. In the profession, 21%. So we don't start with the same basis as the non-lawyer. So when things like a pandemic and imposed quarantine and other issues start to come up, we don't all react as we're already elevated. Okay. So we've got to keep that in mind. There's no question now that we're a few years down the road from the pandemic, the onset of the pandemic. I think it's pretty safe to say that it's accurate to refer to it as a collective, societal, even a generational traumatic event. And I can assure you that trauma is part of the causes of depression. We're noticing a lot of callers who are experiencing grief and the symptoms of grief, and that's a normal response to loss during and after a disaster or other traumatic event. And it's not just a response to loss of life. It's also a response to the drastic changes to our daily routines and ways of life that usually brought us feelings of comfort and stability. And of course, now that we're using virtual tools more often, that impacted us as well. Many of us sought out other things that would substitute for those losses, that person-to-person contact. And sometimes that can lead to some other problems that I'm going to talk about right now. There have been other surveys. Obviously, we know that there's been many studies. We were able to find 24 studies that documented that quarantined people develop symptoms of low mood, anxiety, and depressive disorders. That a vast majority of people feel that it seriously hurt their daily lives, that it had a negative impact on their mental well-being. It's I think, fairly common to find these kinds of findings. And lawyers and trauma often go, it doesn't really mean physical, personal trauma. What we have to remember is that we can often experience distressing or disturbing experiences and emotional upset because of the work that we do with the clients who have been traumatized. That's where that secondary or vicarious trauma comes into play. And it can develop into something that's called compassion fatigue. These are all topics that, frankly, I could spend an entire hour on. But the purpose of doing this is to kind of set the stage for the fact that lawyers, by their profession and their chosen profession, have already experienced a lot of negative consequences just from being an attorney. There's a very well-known survey done by ALM Intelligence and Law.com It was done first in 2020, right before the pandemic, and then again in May of 2022. And that survey was open to anyone working in a law firm setting, unlike the Krill study, which meant anyone who had a license to practice law and was involved in any area of the legal profession. It could be academic, it could be clerkship, it could be public service attorney, it could be private practice. The ALM intelligence really studied life in a law firm setting, and the overwhelming majority, and I think it was 78% of the lawyers surveyed, believed that their mental well-being was worse off as a result of their chosen career. Worse off as a result of their career in the law. So, one thing is certain. The new normal that we have and will continue to enter into has been dramatically influenced by many, many things. And the negative impact of technology on lawyers, some people, as I said, we have anxiety problems already. Sometimes we're inundated with information that even exacerbates or elevates that anxiety. Sometimes it reminds us of tasks that we don't, that we haven't performed. Distraction, being able to get our work done, prioritizing, scheduling, these so-called smartphones, and screen devices that I'm going to talk about in just a few minutes by giving you some specifics, have a useful purpose, but unfortunately, it's not always something that works to our benefit. One of the things I find is this new normal. Has it been influenced by the isolation many first had forced upon them, and then became quite accustomed to, and that was this world of hyperconnectivity. So what exactly is it? It's defined as the use of multiple systems and devices that may remain constantly connected to social networks and streams of information. Just another day in the life of all of us in this new normal world of ours, you might say, but at what cost? With more of us than ever working with these devices, some still working remotely, Zoom meetings, virtual court appearances, CLEs, and other virtual sessions became part of our daily routines. We see our colleagues two-dimensionally and even socialize with our friends on screens rather than face-to-face. With screen time rapidly increasing in our world, what are the effects on our brains? As we enter into this and continue to work through this virtual world. Yes, we leave work to go home and check work email. We're never turned off. Just like those mobile phones, we're on standby mode at the end of the day as we try to get some sleep after we've been hyperactivated by all these lights and all these devices and all this information overload. Like many people, as I said, we're trying to cope with a collective societal generational traumatic event, regardless of the type of law we practice. Many experts believe that while smartphones and other devices provide great benefits to our society, those benefits also come at a great cost to our mental health. And sometimes the overuse of devices can be connected to increased levels of anxiety, depression, poor sleep, and frankly, increased risk of accidents, car accidents. I have some statistics on that. So, one of the other negative impacts specifically I want to talk about is on the screen right now. This whole idea of isolation and aloneness. And sometimes everybody thinks that solitude, loneliness, isolation are all one and the same, and they're really not. Solitude, the physical state of being alone, can be something that people want and desire. Some people think that loneliness is the same thing. It's not. And one of the things that people really don't realize, I think, is that widespread loneliness has poses a serious health risk. I'm not sure if you have heard of the statement, I suppose, by the Surgeon General of the United States, who has declared the latest public health epidemic is loneliness. That widespread loneliness in the United States poses a health risk as deadly as smoking up to 15 cigarettes daily, costing the health industry billions of dollars annually. About half of the U.S. adults say they've experienced loneliness, the emotional state of being alone. The emotional state of being alone. We know that loneliness is a common feeling many people experience. It's like hunger or thirst. It's a feeling that the body sends us when something we need for survival is missing. Millions of people in America are struggling in the shadows, and that's a problem. And that is why the Surgeon General issued the advisory to pull back the curtain on a struggle that too many people are experiencing. So hopefully that his declaration was intended to raise awareness around loneliness. And I think that it's really it was very timely. Unfortunately, we don't necessarily understand that technology has rapidly exacerbated the loneliness problem. One study cited in the Surgeon General's report found that people who use social media for 2 hours or more daily were more than twice as likely to report feeling socially isolated than those who are on such apps for less than 30 minutes a day. So social media in particular is something that I'm going to talk about, but I wanted to kind of give you this lead in as to the fact that aloneness, solitude, loneliness are not necessarily all one and the same thing. And why are they important? Well, because of this thing called social isolation. Social isolation. And I used virtual isolation in my title. If we were to look at the symptoms of depression in the DSM, the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual, and you saw, remember, 28% of lawyers suffer from depression. One of the symptoms, aside from feelings of hopelessness and sadness and suicidal ideations and things like that, social and or occupational distress and isolation. Social distress, social isolation, occupational distress, occupational isolation. Been in the DSM criteria for years, but suddenly those things mean something different to us, those words. Social isolation, yeah, I kind of know what that means. Occupational isolation, yeah, sure, because of the pandemic. There are some things that, and I pose this question to people, whether or not they are techno-lonely. We have all this stuff going on around us, but are we really just alone a lot of the time? Some of the things that we don't really think about too often are what these devices are doing to our mental health. And one of the things that we have to look at in particular is this reward system in our brains. Okay. The negative impacts of technology on lawyers, the addictive cycle of stimulation and hard to quit dependencies. And that's where dopamine comes into play. Dopamine is a brain chemical that's linked to motivation. It's released when we taste something delicious, after we exercise, when we have a positive social interaction. It basically rewards us for behaviors that benefit and motivate us to do them again. The reward pathways of the brain become active when either anticipating or experiencing rewarding events. Every time a stimulus response results in a reward, those associations get cemented in our brain, so we want to keep doing them. Whenever we receive a like or a kind comment on something we post on social media, we feel a sense of validation. It isn't always healthy. So let's look at some of the devices that we use every day of our lives and how many of us have become shackled to our screens. Well, let's start at the beginning. Television. Yes. If you know the word television and you've been familiar with it for a long time, you probably know the name Nielsen. Nielsen has been doing surveys in the television industry for many, many years, probably since its invention and its inception, as long as I can remember. The Nielsen ratings, they would determine what people like to watch on TV, how often they watch it, how many TVs they have, and as you can see, Nielsen tells us about the demographics and of the based on age, on how much time is spent on TVs. And the older our population gets, it seems the more time they spend looking at televisions. But did you know that the percentage of homes with more than 3 television sets is 66%? That 49% of Americans say they watch too much TV. What's on those TV screens, folks? And what's it doing to our kids, to the young people? Well, by the time an average child finishes elementary school, the number of murders that they've seen on TV, real or enacted, is 8,000. The number of violent acts seen on a television by a child by the time they reach the age of 18 is 200,000. What do we get? What's it doing to us? Well, I couldn't resist those other two statistics. The percentage of Americans who can name the Three Stooges is 59%. Name at least 3 U.S. Supreme Court justices, 17% of us can do that. So, not sure what that means other than the fact that I found it interesting. I thought I'd share it with you. You know, many people think that businesses use their own products to promote confidence and loyalty unless they know something maybe that we don't. And I think that's maybe the case when you think about the iPad back in 2010, when its creator told us that this device, what it does is extraordinary. It's the best browsing experience we've ever had. Better than a laptop, better than a smartphone. Incredible. So when Steve Jobs was interviewed in 2014 by the New York Times, he was asked for a comment in response to, well, your kids must love the iPad. What did he say? They haven't used it. We limit how much technology our kids can use. Wow. Maybe he knew something that we needed to know back then. Yeah. Anyway, under the article, Steve Jobs was a low-tech parent. Interesting. So, what about the internet? Yeah, we all know about that. And of course, we can't live without it. There's no question. Way before the pandemic, many people, the high percentage of people were getting their news on social media. Facebook, 22% of internet time, 68% of us have a Facebook account in the United States. These statistics, frankly, change weekly. It's hard to keep up with them. But if you want to see something really scary, let's ponder some of these incredible statistics. This is with respect to the use of smartphones. That we unlock our phones 150 times a day. That 66 of the world's population shows signs of, and here's I'm going to give you some new words that you've probably never heard of. Nomophobia. 66% of the population show signs of nomophobia. Fear of not having your cell phone. It usually, the first symptom is usually this. Where's my phone? Something like that. Don't tell me that you've never felt that way. I think I lost my, yeah, but it's fear of not having your cell phone. Wow, because after all, your whole life is there, right? Where's my phone? A study in 2018 showed that American adults spend between 2 and 4 hours a day on their devices. This was in 2018, which added up 2018. This is 5 years ago. People were tapping, swiping, touching their phones 2,600 times a day. 2,600 times a day was the number of taps, swipes, touches, and types. When the pandemic hit in 2020, those numbers went up exponentially, given the need to replace in-person work and play with virtual alternatives. So, 71% of people sleep next to or with their phones. 20% of people would rather go without their shoes for a week to take a break from their phones for that long. I'd rather not wear shoes. So, a lot of people, the times have gone up, the time of the number of minutes. And, there's an app on your phone that'll tell you how much use you have. Of course, my challenge is to try to get that number to go down. Because after all, when you have a situation where nearly 60% of people can't go an hour without checking their phones, and that 40% of people check it in the middle of the night, what do you think about that? So the study also indicates that 73% of adults, by the way, experience that anxiety, even a mild state of panic when they can't find their phone. So we become so entwined with those digital lives of ours. They carry all our social media addictions with us 24/7. So we always have these connections at our fingertips. There's another new word that the technology has created. Ready for this one? I already mentioned these statistics about use. Here's the new word: fubbing. Fubbing. We've all been there. You're conversing with someone. Suddenly they start checking their phone right in front of you. It's called fubbing, and it's a growing problem. What's it mean? It's phone snubbing, fubbing. People are so addicted to their phones they can't put them down even when they're in the middle of a conversation. Nearly 32% of people report being fubbed 2 to 3 times a day. So as I said, it's also known as phone snubbing. It's the act of ignoring someone in favor of the phone. And it can happen in any conversation, whether it's with a friend, a family member, even a business associate. It can come in many forms. Sometimes it's a matter of just looking down. Sometimes it's almost the same as kind of gazing over someone's shoulder as you're having a conversation with them, as if they think that there's something else more interesting. You know that look. Tends to be rude and inconsiderate behavior. Conveys that the person on the other end of the phone is more important than the person that they're talking to. So, and by the way, it also damages relationships. 85% of phone users, smartphone users, will check their devices while speaking with friends and family. 85%. Eye contact is super important in bonding and developing something called oxytocin, the chemical that builds trust and connection. Oxytocin. A lack of eye contact due to fubbing can make people feel like you don't care about them or value their time. So think about it before you sit in front of a client or a colleague, or maybe even during a Zoom court appearance. What causes it? It could be due to boredom. It can be a way for someone to find a quick form of entertainment. It can also be due to someone trying to avoid an awkward conversation or feeling socially anxious through social interactions. So, it's kind of humorous when we talk about it, but the reason I mention it is not humorous because it can really happen when someone has become addicted to their phone. Or just be suffering from some form of anxiety. Now, we've all been there. We've all seen people quietly having a meal as a family. Why are they quiet? Because all 3, 8, 4, or 5 of them have a phone in their hand, and they're looking down like this, and they're not talking to one another. I tell an interesting story. I do a lot of in-person programs. I travel to many areas. Some of them are a little more remote than others. And I remember being in central Pennsylvania, which is rather rural, and I stopped there that night before my presentation. The next day, I was waiting. I went and had dinner, and I walked into a restaurant, and the place was very lively. Everybody was laughing, talking, sitting at their dinner and enjoying each other's company and food. And I thought, oh, what a great place this is. Man, what a great find. So the next day I was referring to that place to the attorneys that I was presenting to. And they said, well, what's the name of the place? And they said, that's on the other side of the mountain. There's no phone service or internet connection there. So when forced, people, of course, couldn't use the devices. Then they spoke to one another. Okay. Anyway, well, I've saved some of the best statistics for last. 45% of people in the United States would rather give up sex for 1 year than give up their phones. 75% of Americans use the phone while on the toilet. 19% have dropped it in the toilet, and 12% have used their phones in the shower. But here's one statistic that is unfortunate, and it's in red. 75% of users admit that they've texted at least once while driving, and cell phone addiction studies show us that smartphone use is more dangerous on the road than alcohol use. And I have a site for this if you want to look it up. 26% of accidents involving cars are caused by cell phone use while driving. Thus, the driving while distracted motor vehicle codes, ordinances, and violations that we see. I don't know what it's called in California. Driving while distracted. Yeah, a lot of accidents, and they forced to do that. Email, of course, I know you can't live without email, as opposed to what it's called. Yes, snail mail. I know. The way many people practiced many years ago. You already know how long I've been a lawyer, so I'm one of them. But I've come clean with you. Come clean right up front. I never fully succeeded with this problem. I found a major distraction was my need to see my emails now. I'd be on a phone, and I'd find my eyes glancing at my computer screen in order to catch a glimpse of the next email notification, kind of like the anticipation of a kid on Christmas Eve. And sometimes I have to confess while I'm doing a presentation like this on a screen, because at the bottom right-hand corner of the screen there may be a little box that pops up that has an email notification from someone, and I'll divert my eyes to the right, which is what it looks like when I do it. Once you see it, you feel compelled to respond. Many people start to feel that email communications are like a tennis match, that the sense that hit the ball back immediately. I felt like I was Federer or Serena, that receive, reply. So needless to say, it's a distraction, but I kept doing it because to me they were 911 matters. They were priority. I had to remind myself of the days before they existed for me. But that pales by comparison to the text message. Talk about being shackled, and how much time we spend texting. And 79% of smartphone use is messaging, according to the people who make these devices. And we're talking about billions per day. Billions, hundreds of thousands per second of text messages that are handled by certain companies. It's just amazing how much it's grown. And when you look at the statistics on how quickly people check your text notifications, a third of us check them within a minute. Over half within 5 minutes of being notified. Within 1 minute. That could be 5 seconds, or it could be 59 seconds. Okay, but a third of us check our text notifications within 1 minute. 1 minute. Tell me that's not a distraction. If that's an accurate number, how can you be doing your work and not get distracted by text notifications? How? And yeah, social media. Well, I could spend an hour on that, and I'm not. But trust me, positive social experience takes me back to the dopamine conversation, the release of dopamine, and those positive social interactions transferred to the virtual world through our devices and our social media platforms. Each text message, email, like on Facebook, Instagram, X, becomes a positive social stimulus where we keep craving more. While all this may seem harmless on the surface, these cravings for virtual stimuli set us up for screen addictions and take the place of healthier face-to-face interactions with friends and loved ones and time spent outdoors doing other things. Screen time is on the rise. I can tell you that it went up dramatically during the imposed isolation. These numbers are interesting. They're not. They're really meant to raise your awareness that there is such a thing out there as digital device addiction. It may not be recognized as an addiction in the DSM. There are other organizations worldwide that do recognize it as an addiction. This is kind of you've seen the 20 questions that we ask people to answer truthfully and in the privacy of their own office, home, wherever you want to call it, where no one can really know what you're saying. Be honest. Answer these questions about your use of phones and devices. Being pulled over, using red lights to answer social media posts. Is your phone always in your hand or nearby? Remember the nomophobia. Does it join you in the bathroom? If you don't have it plugged in, will your battery last all day? So, is it taking you too much longer to complete simple tasks? Maybe there's some symptoms you need to be aware of. Okay? You start to get, it affects your sleep. False vibrations. I felt my phone. It vibrated. I felt it. My pocket. I'm missing out on something. You get anxiety. And yes, there are physical signs: eye strain, blurred vision. How about this one? Neck pain, headaches. It's got a name for it now. It's called text neck. Here it is. I'm going to demonstrate it. Text neck. Simple movement. Yes. Got my device in front of me. Just that. You know what it does to your spine? Even though the human head puts 10 pounds of pressure, even the lawyer's head, as big as sometimes they get, puts 10 pounds of pressure on the spine. This movement right here adds that pressure to 50 pounds. 50 pounds. So ultimately, it will cause text neck if you aren't careful. So let's pretend this is a conversation and this is a seminar on substance use disorder and drug alcohol use disorder. And I said, here are the signs of withdrawal from alcohol dependence, drug dependence. They would be the same. Restlessness, anger, irritability, difficulty concentrating, sleep problems, cravings, increased heart rate. All of these are the same with signs of withdrawal from digital device dependency. So be aware of them. When we struggle with trying to control things, we don't try to struggle with things that are good for us, but you try to control your use of alcohol, drugs, sex, exercise, addiction, and there is an exercise addiction, by the way. Yeah, that's a problem. I want you to be aware of this. I want you to have this. This is a resource slide, so you can look at the strategies for improving your well-being, establishing better boundaries, because that is at the heart of this problem. Putting stops on things, limiting social media use, trying to limit the amount of times you check your email a day. Have people. I've been told by lawyers who have really accepted this challenge that they've decided to check their email, and they give me a time frame from 10 to 11:30 in the morning, from 2 to 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Other than that, they will not check, they will not receive, they will not respond to any emails. So they can get their work done. Because if they're constantly being distracted and this volley back and forth, let people know that's what you do. So it's not, people don't get angry. I know you saw my text message because it said read and the precise time. It's been an hour. What's the problem? Problem is I'm working, I'm doing something else. I don't instantaneously respond. That's what the problem is. It's not my problem. It's your problem. So that's what we need to do. Set some boundaries, healthy boundaries. Disconnect. Yeah, there's a good challenge for you. Don't charge your phone next to your bed. Think you can do it? Why do you do it, first of all? Why? Oh, it's your alarm clock. I hear you. What's the purpose of an alarm clock? To get you up and out of bed and moving in the morning? Well, then put it on the other side of the room. So you have to get up to turn it off. Okay? Why don't you try that? If it's your alarm clock, I understand that's what it's really for. Don't do it while you're eating, exercising, or socializing. Maybe try to read, tablets, things like that. If you want to read, use the light that is emitted impacts your sleep. And I'm going to talk to you about sleep in a minute. Manage those apps. Delete the ones that perhaps are more distracting than helpful. Install wellness, mindfulness apps on your phone. Falling asleep with your phone in your hand so you can respond instantly to notifications at any hour is not offering any relief. Intentionally disconnect. Be intentional. Let airplane mode be your friend. The onus is on each of us individually to set feasible boundaries and to de-stress if we're going to achieve what we're seeking, work-life balance. Okay? No phubbing during meals and social activities. Don't even have your phone with you. Don't take your laptop with you on weekends or vacations. Make it a vacation. Too much time is spent in the virtual world, and it can have a negative impact on how you perceive yourself. There are many apps that don't have stopping cues. And by the way, I haven't even gotten into internet sports gambling apps. That's a whole problem, and of course I know in California that's really not an issue yet, but you do travel. I know that it was on your ballot, I guess last year or the year before, I don't remember, not being in your state, but I did a presentation for a very large firm in San Francisco, and was specifically on gambling addiction, because it is certainly on the rise, and the overwhelming percentage of use is done with one of these. So anyway, happy versus unhappy. These are the apps that we want to avoid and hopefully use. When things are causing anxiety, unfollow the unhealthy. Unfollow people that are hateful, hurtful, or distressing. Social comparisons. And that's where we have to remember, and it's my internal cue to remind you that sometimes some of these things that I talk about are things that we need to remember for our families, for younger people who have been engaging in dangerous social comparisons. Too much time can in the virtual world can really impact how you perceive yourself. Okay? The time you lose that could be spent forming relationships with others, discovering passions, honing your skills, experiencing new things, leads to a weakened sense of self-identity and confidence because we're busy comparing ourselves to others through social media. Unfortunately, it's important we don't remember that others' online profiles are a curated snapshot, not a full picture of real life's imperfections and challenges. You know, things are not always as they appear. The grass isn't always greener, so to speak. So we have to overcome intentionally some biases and rethinking great things. Experiences are what make us happy. Okay? We plan for experiences, not material things. You look forward to an experience, enjoy them, relive them. That's the things that we need to remember. We get so accustomed to things, and hedonic adaptation describes when we get accustomed to things, and those things have much less of an impact after the initial jolt of happiness. So try to share experiences with other people. What I really need you to do is take this challenge, folks. It's what I call my oxygen mask challenge. But it starts by saying this to you. I want you to devote 4% of your life to taking care of you. What's 4% of my life? 1 hour a day is 4%. 1 hour a day is 4%. Is that too much to ask? Why do you call it an oxygen mask challenge? Because I want you to remember when you're out on those, getting ready to go on that wonderful vacation, and the flight attendants are giving you the last minute instructions, and we all know about buckling seatbelts and not utilizing the lavatories for electronic smoking, and et cetera, et cetera. The last thing they always tell us as we approach the runway is, even if an unexpected loss of pressure, oxygen mask will descend. If you're with someone that needs help, they tell us to put our own mask on first. And you folks have to put your own mask on because you're problem solvers. People come to you to solve their problems. I don't want you to be converted to a problem collector who looks at that person in the mirror every day and says, I know you've got problems, but I'm too busy to take care of your problems. If you don't take care of yourself, put your own oxygen mask on first, use some of these quick stress busters, and be mindful and take care of yourself, and maybe even meditate and try that. Best thing I ever did was put a meditation app on my phone. It does more, that does more for me, frankly, than probably eating healthy or cultivating a positive attitude or some of these other quick stress busters. Good night's sleep is pretty important. I only spend a minute a day on this other one. Gratitude. Is that all? Yeah, because I'm shocked every time I do it. I have a reminder. I use my phone for positive things. Today I am grateful for. It comes up on my phone every day at 10 a.m. And then I put a 1-minute timer on, and I write with a pen and a piece of paper everything that I'm grateful for. And I'm shocked every single day at how many things I can write down in 60 seconds. It's a 60-second exercise, but it allows me to memorialize and reflect and reduce some of the stress in my life and activate my parasympathetic nervous system without ever using a device. All these things on the screen right now will benefit your parasympathetic nervous system, the opposite of the fight or flight system. It's the rest and digest system. And yeah, you need to set your table every day for success. And sleep is what does it. So look at these things. Use this as a toolkit, this slide presentation. Make sure you use these things. There's no reason for me to go through all these slides, but I want you to have access to all this information because it'll help you every single day. Because if you don't take care of yourself, you can inadvertently violate the rules of professional conduct. All these things will help you alleviate some of the risks, because we're at a high risk population in the law. High expectations, high accountability, high stress level, conflict-driven profession, emotionally detached, thinkers not feelers, win-lose mentality constantly. And we're ashamed and we're embarrassed to ask for help because of the stigma that surrounds these issues in our society is disproportionately magnified in our profession. Who wants to admit that they need help? I didn't want to do it. I denied it. This could be a self-portrait. I think I have another one. It's usually a person with their head stuck in the sand. Sometimes I use for this one with dealing with denial by rationalizing, minimizing my behavior. I didn't realize it until somebody started the ripple effect in my life. And that's what I need you to do. And it started with a simple question. Are you okay? What's going on? Can I help you? Sometimes we just have to say those words to someone and the ripple will start when you least expect it. I had said, no, I'm okay. I'm fine. I don't need anybody's help. I could take care of all these things myself. These are all the things that I said because I had never heard of a lawyer's assistance program. Okay. I had never heard of it. I couldn't imagine that there were people out there that would help a stranger, but there are. It's your lawyer's assistance program. There's no reason to give up hope. The most compelling thought I can remember having is is on this screen, that I was not alone. I thought that I was, and I was wrong. I was not alone. So when you want to tell someone you'll call them back, yeah, make it a real live stream that you're watching. Call them back after that. Get outside, enjoy yourselves, take care of yourself every single day. It's up to you. So I want to thank you for being here. Remember, all of these slides are yours to use. Here's my contact information. Feel free. I know I'm in Pennsylvania. It doesn't matter. We make referrals all over. If you don't want to call anybody in California, call us. Call LCL of Pennsylvania. Call me. Text me. Email me. It's what I do for a living now. So thanks for letting me be here today with you.
Thank you, Brian. We can now move on to our audience questions. Again, if you have any questions for Brian here, please feel free to click that Q&A button at the control panel at the bottom of your screen and submit them. Looks like we already have a few, so we can go ahead and jump right in. Okay, our first question is, how can I ensure I'm being present for my clients while also taking time for myself?
Well, it's a matter of priorities. I love the idea of not prioritizing what's on your schedule, but to schedule your priorities. That's from Stephen Covey, as a matter of fact. And that means actually looking at this to-do list, this client list, this things you have to do to take care of your clients, and understanding that you've got to really decide, what must I do today? How is that really? That's why I mentioned the oxygen mask. You are not going to be 100%, and we fool ourselves. That's part of the whole denial process. Very, very powerful feeling. I'm not one of them. I'm okay. I did that for so many years of my life, of my practice, and I was getting chronically and progressively worse. And it was gradual and incremental. And by the time I start to realize that I might have a problem, I had already done so many things improperly that I was in disciplinary. I had disciplinary issues as well. So, it's just kind of a common sense situation where take care of you. You'll be better equipped to handle your client's needs. That's the whole idea of lawyer wellness. It really is.
Wonderful. Thank you for that insight. Our next question is, what is the best way to motivate your friends or colleagues who may need to take better care of themselves?
Well, I don't think that any of us should try to be interventionists. This is what you need to know about lawyers' assistance services. One of the most important things that we do every day in this field of ours, including the one, and I know the people in California who work there, is we receive phone calls just like that question that's posed to me every day. What do I do? And by the way, that's the most interesting part of it. Sometimes the Lawyers Assistance Program will actually give you some tips. They'll want to know a little bit more about this individual, what's going on, what are they, how are they acting, because obviously you need to motivate them, not by putting demands on them or threatening. It's motivational intervention is trying to alleviate some of the negative. We call it the good, bad, and the ugly. The good form of intervention is when it's thoughtfully planned and it's individualized and it's collaborative. So I suggest to people, and not just because I work for a lawyer's assistance program, because I learned by just seeing how it works every day, and I'm just watch it and listen all around the country. Call the Lawyer's Assistance Program anonymously. You don't have to mention anybody's name. No one needs, when you call, remember you can remain anonymous and say, I need some advice. And here are people that are clinically skilled at giving that advice. I'm not a clinician. I'm a lawyer. So I suggest that people utilize the free services that you have at your disposal. And you can get some advice on how to do it. So it really depends on, it's a case-by-case basis, just like many things in our practice.
Awesome. Thank you. Our next question is kind of similar to our first question, but it's, what is a good way to tell clients and colleagues that I'll only be checking my email at certain times?
I don't know that there's, that's more of a best practices question. I know the first time I heard it, I was stunned when a lawyer told, and it was many, many years ago. It was before email, and I don't think it had to do with telephone calls. Because I would notice that he would be in his office, and his assistant would say, he's not available, and he'll get back to you sometime after 2 p.m. or between 2 and 4. And I said, why do you do that? And he said, because I won't get any work done. So it's just a matter of saying, it's a matter of advising people in a very kind way. This is how my practice works best. I think it'd be best if you need to get a hold of me. Now, obviously, there are emergencies, and you have to be able to judge what is a true emergency or isn't. But generally, the best time to reach me when they engage you is between this time and that time. If you email me, you may not get a response until between this time and this time, because that's generally when I devote myself to answering emails. It's just a matter of keeping colleagues informed. Obviously, I suppose I was always told that you have to make an exception for a judge if you're a litigator. Sometimes they forget that they were lawyers, but and I tell them that, and I do present to many judges. But it's just a matter of communication. Best piece of advice we have in the practice of law, and the best way to stay out of trouble with our clients is to communicate. I can tell you that disciplinary board folks tell me that it's one of the most common complaints that they receive from the public about their lawyer is, my lawyer doesn't get back to me, doesn't respond to me. So just communicate, let them know the rules, and things will be better. It'll work.
Thank you. I think that's all the questions we had time for today, but I want to thank you for joining us. It was such a great presentation, such a good topic. I'm going to go ahead and wrap things up here, but thank you so much, Brian. It was a really great presentation.
Thanks, Nina. Appreciate it.
We want to thank you all for joining us today for another Justia webinar. Thank you again for joining us. Everyone have a wonderful weekend. Thank you so much. Thanks for watching. We hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did enjoy it, please click the like button and subscribe to our channel for more videos on law practice and legal marketing. See you in our next video.